Thank you, sir. At the risk of being simple again, let me ask you a yes or no question, and you can just shout it out. You don't need the mic for this. Let's go in this order. Should the big banks, the top 4 or 5 banks, be broken up? Yes or no?
Yes.
If they can't survive on their own, yes.
They cannot be too big to fail.
What does that mean? Yes or no?
If they're too big
I'm a little
to fail
thick.
now, yes.
Okay. In terms of then picking up on what each of you said, do you think that pretty much the regulation that's in place now is sufficient if people did their jobs to prevent future financial abuses by major financial firms, or is more regulation needed? So yes or no, more regulation needed?
Yes.
Yes.
No, but regulation is part of what caused the problem. That's how we got mortgage-backed security.
All right, our questions continue. Foreign policy, beginning with Mr. Clinton. Regarding the worldwide increase in Chinese influence and its burgeoning accumulation of American debt, and recognizing that China has failed to forestall North Korea's nuclear program, do you agree that America must threaten to provide nuclear armaments to Japan as a counter?
I don't know that that's the answer. Providing nuclear weapons, and if we're going to take the position that Iran can't have nuclear weapons, we've got to be intellectually honest about the debate. If our goal is to make sure that people don't have nuclear weapons to use against others, then we've got to be conscious of that. The flip side is Japan hasn't threatened to kill all of its neighbors. So we have an issue in Asia that we have to recognize, and I think the administration is going down the wrong course. Having lived in Asia for 3 years, I can tell you that their attempts to bring the Japanese and the Chinese together is never going to work. They do not like each other, and it risks another huge fundamental problem. We have a lot of allies in Asia, for instance, South Korea. You leave them on the sidelines in that kind of a trilateral discussion, and suddenly you're alienating allies.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Radkoff, you get a 60-second response, sir.
Actually, the premise of the question I have some question with, in that Japan doesn't even allow our nuclear fleet into their ports. It would be surprising to me that they would want our nuclear weapons. We, the United States, have unfortunately been the policemen of the world, in whether it be Europe or in the Far East. But as I said, the premise of the question is probably flawed.
Mr. Hahn?
I agree with you. Could you do me a favor? Could you repeat the question, please?
Regarding the worldwide increase in Chinese influence and its burgeoning accumulation of American debt, and recognizing that China has failed to forestall North Korea's nuclear program, do you agree that America must threaten to provide nuclear armaments to Japan?
No, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's necessary.
I believe we're finished with that one. Let's go to the domestic issue, and this is beginning with Mr. Radkoff. Regarding undocumented illegal immigration and that the Mexican border remains volatile, do you agree with establishing any type of pathway to citizenship for people who are already working in America but are here illegally?
Yes, through our normal, formal immigration program. In addition to that, there's the normal routes of visas and perhaps even day workers. But to provide any special program beyond that rewards those who have acted illegally. And we don't want to reward bad behavior.
Mr. Hahn?
I don't agree with any form of amnesty. As Dee just commented on, I feel that we do need immigrants, legal immigrants, to come into this country to make it a great country. That's what makes us great. That's what makes it the great American melting pot. As far as amnesty for illegals coming over the Mexican border or through any other avenue, I'm not for rewarding them with amnesty for doing illegal things for the last 10, 20, 15 years, whatever it may be.
Mr. Quinter?
My answer to the question is no. I think you go back and get in line and wait like everybody else. It's that simple. Here's another reason why it's really important to understand the premise of this question. Does anybody in the room tonight know how they measure the number of illegal people in this country? They make estimates based on the number of people they've actually caught. So you offer amnesty to these folks, you don't actually know how many people you're giving amnesty to. The numbers we're given could be way off, and they could be lower. They could be much higher. The answer is enforce the immigration laws, seal the border, and get rid of policies like catch and release, and go back to the policies that were working in the second half of the Bush administration. And let's get this problem under control. The federal government has a responsibility to take care and protect the borders.
So a follow-up question for each of you then. If I hear you correctly, if you have 12 to 20 million illegal aliens in the United States, let's say, for the sake of argument, that all the borders are sealed, but you still have those 12 to 20 million still here. Some of them start going through that pathway, and maybe the government says you can stay for a little while. But are you saying for the bulk of those 12 to 20 million, put them on a bus and take them across the border? What do you say?
It's exactly what I'm saying. It's exactly what I'm saying. Sending the folks it's not, and people think, well, it's a very complicated thing to do. Well, what I would tell you is study what happened during the Bush administration. President Bush had a policy of catch and release and soft employer audits in the first half of his presidency. And it wasn't working. So they switched. They got rid of catch and release, and they went into employer raids. That's what you saw all over the news. They were going into businesses and catching these people. And when they got them, they deported them. And you know what? It works. Keep people from coming across the border the right way, and it keeps employers honest.
Mr. Hawken?
Well, it depends who's paying for the bus ticket, to be honest with you. I think you should walk them across the border.
Oh, I probably won't have the answer that fits for this group best. I believe that, that we can't exactly, there's not a big enough bus. Now, we could have a large parade, but I believe that, A, you have to seal the border. I mean, clear. Any immigration policy, that has to be the first step. That's not the direction that this administration's going. B, they're here because of economics. If you make the economics undesirable, believe it or not, they'll leave. And then we won't have to pay for the bus. And we won't have to pay for the other bus. It'll be in an orderly fashion. And that's attrition through enforcement.
Thank you. Now a foreign policy question, beginning with Mr. Hawken. Regarding the economic turmoil in the European Union and the growing control over oil gas flow that Russia exerts over Europe, do you agree that America should advocate for Georgia and Ukraine to be admitted into NATO?
I would love to give you an answer on that. But no, I would be lying to you if I said to you, oh, I studied Georgia and Ukraine. Sure, I know what their oil resources are. I'm not going to give you that. I'm not going to give you an answer. You're not going to get that out of me. I will have to research that.
Brian, I appreciate the honesty. I think the answer is yes, you admitted to NATO. We have a serious problem, particularly with the Russians and the way they control oil and gas. There's another part, which I'm sure we're going to get to at some point. They're actually buying up gas lines in Africa now, too. So they want to be able to clamp down all over Europe, control over oil and gas lines. So the answer is yes. If you can admit Ukraine and other nations into NATO and bring them into our orbit so that we can work with them to make sure Europe stays prosperous and free, the answer is yes, you admit to NATO.
Mr. Redford.
I'm positive toward Russia. Excuse that. Retract that statement. Toward Ukraine and Georgia. But I'm far more positive about developing our own natural gas resources right here in Pennsylvania. Then we wouldn't be dependent on those gas lines, whether they be in Russia or whether they be in Africa. We have the largest, second largest resources in the world right here in Pennsylvania between our natural gas and with our coal resources. Using them and maximizing those resources make us less dependent on worldwide resources and worldwide suppliers of energy and their cartels. Just yesterday's, here it is. This was yesterday's Wall Street Journal. How shale gas is going to rock the world. You can look it up for yourself. But that's the answer.